Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I have a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thompson, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today is episode 205 of Podcast 2 for 1, youtube.com/2for1 studios. Guys, this is the best place to consume all the content. If you didn't know, listeners, and let's be honest, you probably did not, we are sponsored by Capel Comics, located at 4047 East Kill Avenue in Sherwood, Arkansas. There they have comic books, collectibles, graphic novels, and of course, special guest appearances throughout the year.
Kapow.
Kapow. Daniel, it's episode 205. Last week we talked the first two episodes of The Acolyte, and today we're talking episode 3. Some would say the junior year of Acolyte. I had to think about it.
Would they?
Freshman, sophomore, junior year of Acolyte. Yep. And I've got thoughts. I kind of sent you a somewhat ambiguous warning of this episode through text.
Yeah, I mean, you were pretty clear that you were not a huge fan of it, I think.
There's things about it I think are very intriguing and I like, but I think there's other things about it. Yeah. And it's just, and it comes down to a lot of those things that we've both been saying for a while now, is execution. And so let's dive into it. Let me hear your thoughts on The Acolyte, episode 3.
Yeah, unfortunately, this one's a pretty mixed bag for me. There, like you said, I think there's some moments where I'm locked in and I'm like glued to the screen and like, this is fucking cool. And then there's a lot of other moments where I'm like, this either isn't acted very well, written very interestingly, or sometimes even I would say maybe like by the climax of the episode was maybe one of the least interesting ways that I guess that reveal what happens, what the cause of the fire, what the cause of, this rift between the sisters and all that. To me, the circumstances, all of that, how that played out, it was set up and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then the way it played out, I was like, oh, okay. And it just, I don't know. It's unfortunate because you're right. There are elements of this, that are like wonderful, and like seeing Jedi interact with the witches even was really, and my favorite scene is when they're like the Jedi like land their ship or they're in their area and they're kind of like, that confrontation scene was really cool. I love the witch, kind of possessing Torben Targaryen, I guess, or whatever his last. He's
the youngest looking old man ever.
Yes. You recognize him from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, I saw the comparison memes or whatever.
Yeah, from when he was an old man. Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, in the last episode, he the wig and stuff just looks not great. It's like
the beard in particular.
I know. Cast a different guy or something. It's been 16 years. I don't know. Go on.
I agree. The wig wasn't great, but his character's cool, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like him from Game of Thrones, and I like seeing him as a Jedi. I'm like, oh, I want to watch him and his master now go on after this and like do their shit. Honestly, like if the show just kept following him and Trinity the rest of the show and just completely pivoted, maybe that wouldn't be the worst. Anyway, yeah, it's unfortunate because I want to like this show. Obviously, the first 2 episodes got me hooked more than I thought they would. And again, this episode has these moments where I'm like, okay, you're kind of doing something cool now. Where could we go with this? But the biggest indictment of it, like to a degree, I can forgive not super great acting, especially from kids. You know what I mean? To a degree, I can forgive some uninteresting dialogue. You know what I mean? Especially if it's just sometimes we just have to get from one point to another point, and if the dialogue isn't just Shakespeare, okay, it's fine sometimes. But I think the biggest thing for me is that like the way they reveal the thing about the sisters, like what, this whole show is set up. The intrigue of the show has been like, what was the Jedi's involvement with these sisters past, with what happened to them and their family and all that shit. And it was very implied that like the Jedi may have done something wrong. And then, and it was kind of like, I don't know, even the hubris we had seen from the Jedi Council, like that master that's above Master Soul, that was like very bureaucratic and like, oh, we just need to sweep this under the rug. Like it felt like they were really setting us up. Oh yeah, this is the hubris. We're gonna see, the cockiness of the Jedi and why it's their downfall. And that none of that was at play here. To me, I mean, I guess that maybe we didn't see everything. Maybe there's another flashback that's like, oh, at the same time that one sister was killing the other, this other shit was happening, and ooh, maybe that'll happen. But even then, it's still just like, I don't know, man. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, let's dive into it. I pretty much agree with you almost on every front there. I do feel like let's talk about some of the positives first. Let's kind of separate this. It might be easier to track. I've seen some vitriol online about the witches, like how this is dumb, those kind of things. I like the idea of other covens, no pun intended, or cults or groups using or understanding the Force in a different way. I don't mind it being called the thread. I think that makes total logical sense.
Yep.
You look at just on planet Earth right now, there's a lot of religions that are very similar and they call it different things. Can you imagine what it would be like across a galaxy? So
exactly. No, I love that. That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
I like the flavor.
Yeah, that's fine. I like the idea. Oh, I think it's interesting that it looks like this is another virgin birth, like Anakin Skywalker. So obviously that's very intentional.
Or
they're lying.
I mean, this seemed more like they used the Force to impregnate them. Themselves, right? Like, and so maybe what they're doing is they're because the whole thing about Palpatine impregnating Padme, Anakin's mom, sorry, was Legends. That wasn't ever canon. That's not canon now, right? Officially,
no. It was in the official Marvel Darth Vader comic, but then Lucasfilm come out and said this was supposed to be Anakin's perspective of what might have happened.
Okay, so they've given themselves an out at least.
They've given themselves an out and said it was kind of in his head, blah blah blah. So
but it almost feels like if they go that direction with this, maybe they're setting precedent for what could have happened later. I don't know.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, but I mean,
I like that though. I like that. That was cool. That's a cool okay, this is interesting. Maybe this does seem like a weird gray area where the Jedi could have an issue with something, and not necessarily it's but what is the morals of creating life with the Force?
The dark side of the Force, particularly because the sisters are the sisters are on the dark side, and here's where
they don't see it that way. They're not going to see it that way, but yeah, sure.
Here's exactly. Here's the interesting part: is that the Jedi are kind of black and white, especially during this time period, right? Like there's the light side and the dark side. There's a lot of people that says the dark side is just as valuable as the light side, and which I agree with. I think there's like a great Jedi, like we've heard about in Legends, right? And so the witches, they seem benevolent. They seem someone who's not antagonistic or they don't want to do violence, but they're using what would be considered the dark side, right? Like I don't see a version where impregnating someone with manipulating the midichlorians or the Force, whatever. God, we're nerdy. First of all, we're super nerdy, but I don't see that as not the light side. That seems like passion and not greed, but like want and need, and versus passivity, like the Jedi practice. So it falls. So anyway, I think it's super interesting, and I would like to learn more about that and what that meant for later. I'm just afraid that nothing is going to come of it. I don't know.
So you were shaking your head when I was talking about maybe. Do you think there's more that happened that night that we haven't seen yet?
Well, yeah, I wanted to say the positives a little bit first.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, then finish the positives. Are there any?
Well, I think that's super cool. I think seeing those, I think also I disagree a little bit. I think the Jedi coming there and almost being this like authoritarian, we have first dibs on Force sensitive people. That's interesting.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, you said there wasn't I think it's political to me. So I think. You said there wasn't as much political as the first two episodes with the thing. So that's why I was kind of saying.
I guess I was saying it wasn't at least we haven't seen that the Jedi made a political decision that set the domino. Because yes, them coming in with that attitude, yes, I agree, but it's not if this all happened because the Jedi came there with a bad attitude, and we're supposed to blame the Jedi for just not having the best customer service attitude of all time. Like, and that's the downfall. Actually, the hubris of the Jedi was their attitude the whole time. It wasn't anything else. They just should have been nicer, and everything would have been better. I mean, anyway.
The universe rules are also pretty interesting. I mean, obviously, Shmi in episode 1, she saw Anakin being with the Jedi as like an out for Anakin, right? And so there was like this willingness to let him train or to be tested or whatever. With them, it's like there's obviously they don't want her to be tested, either twin, but it's still this kind of like they have to do it, but like in a way that feels a little not like Earth, like a little bit not like our reality. I feel like, but it's fine. I mean, it's Star Wars fantasy.
And I guess I kind of read into that is kind of that thing of like, if they resist, that makes them more of a target. Then more Jedi might come. Like, essentially, if they don't let the Jedi test them, then the Jedi could have justification for interfering or something. It was the kind of same as just like, you can't, if you harm them, we're gonna have like the whole Republic coming down on us, kind of. So I read that as like, we don't have to, but if we don't, it's just gonna make more problems for us, which is what the mom realizes and is like, yeah, we'll let them be tested, you know.
Well, I think part of here's my ultimate issue that stems from that. We can start getting into the negatives. I think these witches, or whoever they are, or whatever, they're force sensitive, right? And it feels like
some of them.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, some of them. What do you mean lie? Like this, you should be smart enough to know that they can't lie about this. And also, it's a weird thing too of like, if there's a force dyad between Rey and Kylo, you're telling me twins can't also kind of read each other's minds that are also both force sensitive? Like, there's just little things that's kind of like, that's just a little baby shit that's like, okay, it's fine, it's whatever. But I still think the mechanism of like, oh, we're going to take them to the ship, they're going to be tested. Like, I love the scene with Saul and is it Osha? Like, I love that scene. I think it's great, but I just think getting from A to B is kind of weird. I think there's like other more interesting ways to do that than taking them, telling them a lie. The sisters are walking, the sisters make a promise. It just feels very almost like kid writing in a way.
It is. Well, and honestly, I was having this thought. I was like, wouldn't this be so much cooler if the girls were like 14 and like starting to like behave like adults, you know what I mean? And like kind of having young adult, and like it was this more like emotionally charged thing between them because they're like, you know, you actually have hormones now and they're not like preview vet. You know what I mean? It's like this.
Hell, like May apparently does, dude, because she's like, oh, I'm gonna fucking kill everybody now.
That is like, oh, I'm just gonna kill my sister because you don't want to stay with me. Yeah,
I'm gonna kill my sister, my mom, my entire village and family because you don't understand. That's crazy.
That part, it seemed like maybe like from my reading of this is like at first. Now that you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, there probably was something else that happened that we haven't seen yet. But my reading was that like that May like set this fire on her door, and unfortunately, her door was underneath the main reactor to this whole place's like power grid, and so it just blew everything up when it got, you know what I mean? Because she's like, May gets out of her room and she hears this like boom and like screams, and you're like, did the door do that? You know what I mean? Like, did the door fire do that? Like,
but all the witches are like laying on the ground, very in close proximity, basically in a circle.
Yeah, and they don't look burned either.
They don't look burned. They look like the Jedi got them. They don't look like, I mean, they look like their arms are cut off. They're burned.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it's that other lady that was like the other mom or whatever. But
are you telling me May is so powerful that
that's bullshit. Yeah. And there's nothing. I mean, listen, like, yes, there's some dumb things here, and I think that's the frustrating part. Honestly, I don't like the whole rule or what
rule of two.
They're not saying rule of two, but they're saying the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, and then it starts singing with that in the background. And I was just like,
that is one of the most cringe Star Wars things.
This is
ever.
not the. So we're setting up the power of two in this on the nose of a way. You know what I mean? It's like that.
There's one thing when you have John Williams do a score. There's an operatic behind him,
and they're speaking in like fucking Latin. So you don't know what they're saying. So it sounds like alien to us as English speakers.
But when you do it, like you're just basically saying the same thing in a score that people are saying on the screen, it feels, especially in Star Wars, so fucking bad. And it's that horrible. Scene right there is why I texted you when I texted you. I said, oh, well, here we go. The cracks are fixing to show because to
It's
me,
just
it feels also just the way like they're doing the witch coven thing is just the most uninteresting visually
yes.
like cliche. It's like student film cliche idea of what a witch coven would do.
And it's got this like kind of like grim dark aesthetic to it, you know? Like they're witches and they've got these weird tattoos and they're kind of doing these flowy arms and one lady over to the side is going, "Oh!" like doing that.
It's literally like
And
it's like
it's
the
like, but
director
then
was like, "Hey, just feel it. Like, what would a witch do in like the coven and stuff?" And they did it, and they didn't correct them, and
yes,
they
that
didn't.
works. Keep going.
Yeah, like, oh, it's interesting. Keep doing it. It's like, no, bro, this is fucking Star
And
Wars.
well, and it's like okay, you can do this. You can do. I think there's a path to doing this, but you got to go all the way. I need some like fucking human sacrifices if we're going grimdark. Okay, you mean if we're going cults
Or-
and witches and shit, we need to be drinking each other's blood, or we need to like not try to pretend we're this edgy and cool and dark. And that's to me, it's like it has the appearance of something interesting. It has the appearance of like, oh, witches and kind of weird magic and like, but then it just is not. Nothing about it ends up being interesting at all. It just becomes this like knockoff cult like tropiness group that
I can't
that
think
just,
of her.
it's
I can't think of her name. She was in Mandalorian season 2, and she transferred over to Ahsoka. And she really didn't get a lot of screen time, but she was kind of like a foil, she was a witch, right? That was kind of working with, I guess, some Night Sisters, or she was a Night Sister. You know what I'm talking about, right? The actress in Ahsoka.
no,
She
but
was like
yeah, sure.
she was the main like foil for Ahsoka physically in the end of season 1. And so
Yeah,
I feel
I just
like
gotta look it up because I can't. I'm blanking.
I think she had like a green like energy witch sword or something. And so to me, like that is a closer representation of like when
Shin
we're
Hati.
seeing okay, yeah. So we're seeing like the powers kind of manifest outside. And you know, if they had like
Oh no,
they
you're
did like a
talking
little
about
thing.
you're talking about the Asian lady, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know you're right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. She was closer to what I want to see in Star Wars, witch
Sure.
wise. And they didn't go all the way with her either. But I think like seeing power, seeing them kind of do stuff with their hands, like actually seeing stuff manifest in them. You saw the witch mother, I guess May and Osha's mom. She had like some type of orb of force or something that she was putting into them. Again, I hope that means something. If it doesn't, it's like, what the hell does that mean? But I think ultimately this felt like an episode that was a flashback that tried to give us answers that were also a little
Or
mostly
half answers,
uninteresting, half answers that was uninteresting, and like, oh, there's still more to come because now they're trying to prime the audience and be here's the story, and then there's what like, oh no, there's more to the story in this critical moment when both sisters are fighting. Like, no, you don't know the whole story, and it changes someone's perspective. That only works for the audience if you do a good job tricking us in this flashback episode.
Yeah.
And this
they
episode,
didn't.
the way it's shot, like her on both on the bridge, which is like an echo from like Rise of or from Force Awakens when Kylo or Rey are on the woods. Whenever May falls, you don't see her, or she's like holding on. You don't see what happens to her.
No.
You just see her next walking in the woods after like she
Right.
survived.
Yeah.
And it's like it's super weird. And it's like you just need to do more.
I don't know if we necessarily had to do that then because we already knew May was alive from the previous episodes. I'm not. That doesn't bother me too much. But
I think it's why. I mean, I know why. I guess
I
that is
think
why
they're
they
just
thought.
justifying why they each thought the other was dead. I guess.
But what's more powerful? Having May die off screen and like I'm say May like falling off screen or no, let's let me back up. What's more powerful? Seeing May come out of the rubble like with a fucking mission, or just seeing May appear walking next to the woods all of a sudden?
No,
like
I
nothing
agree. I
happened to her.
agree. I
Like
agree.
you want to see that moment where May's out, she's abandoned, she's like feeling more alone now, and she's like, I'm fucking gonna do everything I can to destroy somebody now. And again, maybe there's more to the story. Maybe there's
And
someone that
again,
helped
wouldn't
her.
that be so much more impactful if it was like the Jedi's fault and not her own dumbass's fault for just starting a fire and trying to kill her sister?
Well, it is. I still think it is. I
But
still think
but to a
the
degree, it's
Jedi
like
do something.
maybe they do. And I mean,
don't think
obviously,
Saul
it's like
does.
why is Saul there so quickly? The Jedi shouldn't have been that close by if they weren't involved in something going on there for it to like be like he was there within like seconds of the explosion or the whatever. You know what I mean?
I bet it's like this. Let me just call it for right now. I bet Saul and them kind of meet in private with the sisters, with the mom. May is there and sees the confrontation. Saul or Trinity or whoever they kill her or force kill him or something. May sees it. May blames Osha for allowing the Jedi to
Sure.
whatever, and then Osha tried. Now I'm going to kill you, but it's still kind of weird. Did she say I'm going to kill my mom? Maybe I made that part up. I feel
I
like
don't
maybe she
think
said.
she's. I thought she was. She was just like, I'm just gonna kill you. I like until I didn't.
Maybe it's it. I think it's execution.
It seemed
that
like.
part.
Yeah, it's.
Wait,
gonna,
it seemed like a sociopath thing. Like she's like, I'm just gonna like no
yes,
emotion. I'm gonna kill you.
yes,
versus
absolutely. It felt like you're a psychopath. No, like this is not this. No sane person would be motivated to kill their sister over something like this. They would be sad.
Versus
they would be sad. They would not react with violence. You know what I mean? Like, and so it was this moment of like. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's the chance that, like, again, that the other, the Darth Maul species. I can't think of their names right now.
Dathomir.
The Dathomir lady that took her away when Osha was talking with her mom said okay, like gave her permission. I mean, part of me is like, oh, could she have brainwashed her into doing this? Could she have? And I'm assuming my assumption is the other lady is going to try to kill the Jedi or lure them into a trap without the moms knowing in order to get rid of them. So that's her solution. If the Jedi are dead, we don't have to none of the girls have to leave, whatever. Sure. And
it goes sour for her. Yeah.
And that causes a chain and it just turns into a clusterfuck kind of moment.
Yeah. That makes total sense to me. Yeah. And then Saul would feel responsible for that because it's like, well, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's still. I mean, I can still see a way where it's like the Jedi still could have kept their cool better. You know what I mean? Especially with honestly, I'm gonna keep calling her Trinity, Trinity's character.
That's all I know her as. It's Carrie-Anne Moss. Is the actress.
Carrie Moss. Yeah, Carrie Moss. She's great. Again, she's just like she's such a like she's honestly she feels like kind of a female Qui-Gon, just like this total stoic. That has just presents strength and presents she's awesome. But like I can see there being because she felt a little even more confrontational than like Saul did. You know what I mean?
100%.
And so I can see a version of this where it's like, yeah, the Dathomir mom is pissed and causes a bad situation, but the Jedi could have gotten out of it maybe if they weren't being kind of prickish or she wasn't doing something or whatever, Yeah. So I think you're probably right. It will still, but this is a boring, again, I wouldn't have done it this way. I wouldn't have spaced out these reveals like this. I don't think it's again, what they didn't do a good job of hiding is that something else happened, obviously, again, unless May lit the door underneath just like the nuclear reactor that powered their coven that was just conveniently right above the door. It got lit on fire. Like that's the only other version of this that makes sense. It's just like, oh shit, that was real bad luck. But yeah,
I really think that this, if they wanted to do this in this way, where they devote a full episode to this, which also again is dangerous. We talked about this with The Last of Us season, where they're like it feels like TV shows are doing. Every second, or every third or fourth episode, they're like a whole flashback episode. That
I will
just kind
say,
of
at least it's not like right before the ultimate or the penultimate episode. At least they're not like that is what The Last of Us did. I'm pretty sure it's like right before like the finale of the plot, which maybe sometimes takes 2 episodes. Oh, well, you're gonna do 1 episode. It's like Stranger Things almost did it. Well, it wasn't a flashback, but 11 going to that other city and meeting her brothers and sisters that never are mentioned again.
I think there's actually merit doing it closer to the end of the season. You have a big cliffhanger, but you do it in a way that you're still getting information from. Let's say the episode is really about May in like the present day doing stuff, and then you're getting like that's progressing the main plot from her perspective, and then you're getting the flashbacks that fill in to kind of get why she's doing. I think that
In
makes more
theory,
sense.
I agree. I just can't think of any examples where that felt satisfying to do. Like every time it's like
that's because we didn't do it.
Oh yeah, you're right. Fair.
Yeah. I think there's a better version where you're kind of getting like a Rashomon thing where you're getting everyone's perspectives throughout the show, and like not like you're shot for shot, but like you're getting information like every episode. You're like, you learn this tidbit, you learn that tidbit. To me, that seems more satisfying. I don't like the idea of just flashing back for an entire episode because it kills the momentum for me. It's just like I'm not a big fan of it. We've talked about this a lot lately. And here's another thing too is that
honestly,
I was watching.
This also just could have been the first episode of the show. Like I don't know if the non-linear storytelling is benefiting it yet at this point. You still could have done this. This could have been the opening episode of the show or the opening half of episode 1 or something like that. And then we could still get a flashback later that reveals what else happened. You know what I mean? But it feels weird that feels like inevitably going to get another flashback. And it probably won't be a whole episode. But still, it's just going to feel a little redundant.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if I would have this be the first episode, just because if it out of the gate, this was the first episode with this quality, I would not have been super happy with the show already.
Fair.
I've still got like, this is a big speed bump for me, but there's ways to maybe turn it around. But again, of all these Disney Plus shows, the real estate is closing, and like I'm like, you don't have the time to make me happy.
No, and I've gotten to the point where I just don't trust Disney, especially Disney Plus, for quality storytelling. The only outlier to me as far as great storytelling, cool shows, I really love The Mandalorian. I wouldn't say the stories of that show are like, whoa, I can't believe the story. It's just cool and it's badass and it's adventurous and it's awesome. Yes. But it's not like, can you believe who said what when? You know what I mean? It's none of that. Outside of a few moments, but Andor is the only thing that has been put out, both like at least recently, Marvel and Star Wars, that I'm like, holy shit, that could have been on HBO. You know what I mean? Or that's so good. Like, they have good people with the right amount of resources and the right amount of space to make something cool. And I just, at this point, like, even the stuff that's getting better, it's only incrementally getting better. Could we have really good Star Wars shit? Maybe in a couple years. And Marvel's a little bit the same way. I'm just like, I'm not seeing evidence of any kind of big shifts. I'm seeing evidence of small incremental changes, and maybe we'll get there, but just it's at this point I'm like, why should I expect it to be really good by the end? If it's not starting well, what evidence have they given me that they can turn it around? Well, I still outside feel like this is cool moments, you know.
I still feel like this is part of the old regime. This is Dave Filoni has not got his fingers in there.
Prove me wrong, Dave. Prove me wrong.
Yeah, I don't think he's got his fingers in there yet. We still have the Mandalorian movie, which I think that Favreau, he's never disappointed me on a movie front ever.
I'm so skeptical. How are you gonna make that interesting?
Here's the big thing for me is that I recently watched. I kind of did it in a weird order. I mentioned this on the last podcast. I don't think I did. I watched Captain America: Civil War, Winter Soldier, End of Iron Man 2, Avengers: Infinity War, then Endgame, Avengers 1, Age of Ultron. Like I watched all these movies in the last week or so.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I like a fucking 2-hour movie, 2.5-hour movie.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm watching Acolyte and I'm thinking, now there's this third episode. If I ever want to, and I like rewatching stuff, even TV shows. I'm like, I don't want to watch this episode again. This is just like 45 minutes that I'm like, God dang. And I'm like, I just don't know if Star Wars, if they're going to do this, I'd rather stick to the movies. I'd rather just have 2-hour movies.
Yeah.
That when you have mistakes, like they put more, there's more writing on a movie. I feel like they're putting the money of a movie in Disney Plus, which is its own set of problems, but there's more financially writing on a movie because they had to have returns. So there's more care, hopefully, involved. So I don't know. I think Marvel-wise, we loved WandaVision as it was going. That movie that show was hurting us because
honestly,
we were
when I was
wrong
saying
every
that
week.
WandaVision was the outlier.
Yeah,
but again,
we both enjoyed talking about Loki. Also,
we did, but problems. Also, It had problems, and it wasn't as consistent. WandaVision was consistent. The ending disappointed us, but like the dialogue, the production, the casting, everything was consistent about WandaVision. And but to me, WandaVision and Andor felt like they are these like outliers in terms of like the pipeline, right? Like WandaVision was in development for a long time. Like it was the launch of Disney Plus. So like so much attention and time and resources were given to WandaVision. And then Andor was just this other thing it seemed like they agreed to, and then like they already agreed to it. Nothing we can do. We just got to let them whatever they're doing.
They took forever making Andor.
Yeah,
like Tony Gilroy come in. Like I think he wasn't on the showrunner, but he was the guy who basically did the reshoots for Rogue One, and they got him after the first showrunner left. And then Tony said, "Okay, let's rewrite everything. Let's start over, and let's give it." It's why it takes so fucking long to get the first season, and what's taking so long to get season 2, because he's actually like, we're going to try to get it right. Now, I had my own issues with Andor. I think there's like it's a long wind up, long wind up, but it's really good ultimately. Like I think it's a very good. If someone said, "Hey, I want to hear about kind of the underbelly of Star Wars and like the Empire, the Rebellion," like that's a great place to watch and kind of see how the perspective of people, what kind of things are feeling like.
If someone asked me what is the best piece of writing in Star Wars media, I don't know how I could argue it's not Andor. Like in just terms of like in individual scenes and just kind of as a collective whole, what it's trying to do. It's like, I don't know, man. To me, there's nothing has even gotten close to Andor's dialogue, Andor's character development. It's like the arcs it takes us on. I mean, and especially the big moment. I mean, like Skarsgård's speech is still to me like
it's still so
there's
good.
nothing. It's the best written scene in the whole universe, and they just did it. And they just bloop. There it is. Best scenes ever been written and acted in the universe.
If season 2 can like just at least match or just even somewhat be below season 1, like that, season 1, 2, and then Rogue One, that's a great section of Star Wars for like newcomers who just want to be like, oh, here's what Star Wars can be if done correctly. You know, I love Rogue One. I think it's also got its issues. It's got some pacing
Disney
stuff.
Star Wars. It's the best Disney Star Wars to me.
That movie slaps in a lot of ways. I mean, that movie is pretty good, you know. So
I think the opening 10 minutes it's a rough start, but then once it's going, it's going. You know what I mean?
I like those 10 minutes, but I like having that's Matt Mickelson. See, he's in that.
Oh movie. No, sorry. I mean, the flashbacks are great. Once we get to the present day, those first like 10 minutes, like getting the present day plot up and running, were just like clunky as hell from what I remember. But
I can't think of his name, and you're going to kill me. Who's the bad guy in that? What's the actor's name? We love him.
Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn.
God, yeah, our friend Ben Mendelsohn at the
Rogue One
premiere.
Yes.
Yeah. So, he's awesome.
Oh, man, he's so good. Yeah.
Having Darth Vader don't choke on your aspirations, and then at the very
scene at the end. I mean, again, the hallway scene is like legendary.
So good.
You know what I mean?
It is. Yeah, and they had to like replicate it with Luke in Mandalorian season 2.
Yeah,
you know, like they had to kind of replicate
his version of it. Yeah.
There's this thing now, and like especially Disney Plus or just streaming, it's like there's like this hallway wars where everyone has to have a hallway scene where they have to like fight through a hallway.
Did Daredevil start this? I mean, I feel like Daredevil was doing this 10 years ago. Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, Daredevil started.
Is part of it because like in some ways like a long ass hallway shot, it's a shit ton of choreographing and it's a shit ton of like work with the actors and the stunt coordinators, but at production level it's actually really fucking cheap.
But your perimeter's set though. It's like you had this hallway.
And you're just like we have to just go through it, and it's just like I mean, it may take a day of shooting to get the shot, but like still it's like
more than that, but yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's one of those things of like it's almost like an easy button in some ways, because like I feel like in some ways Children of Men, like, you know, ever like 10 years ago were like long shots are so cool. No one does long shots. Look at Children of Men. Look at this long shot. And now everything's an action lawn oneer, you know what I mean? And like and like Children of Men, like a lot of that oneer takes place in like apartment building hallways in these really tight confined spaces, and so it's like I don't know, maybe Children of Men is like the action,
the Godfather,
the claustrophobic one take action sequence. You know, I
like it. Yeah. I like him. I like the Wonders. Yeah. Okay. Ultimate and Acolyte. I mean, theoretically, next week we're going to see her go after the Wookiee.
We still have 5 more episodes, which does. I mean, They've
That
got
feels
space.
better.
They've got
Yeah.
space to do something.
But let me ask you this: $200 million project. Do you think it's worth it so far?
No.
So far, how much we've spent
Again,
so far?
I would not be surprised if like it was later revealed that Disney Plus, all of the productions have been a part of a massive money laundering scheme because I don't understand the budgets of any of their shows. Any of them.
Okay, so
Especially when
far
you're
we've
shooting
spent
the
25
fucking
million.
volume. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as much as you do, you own that place. You don't have to pay yourself rent to use the volume. You know what I mean? Like I sometimes I mean I don't know. Again I don't understand any of the budgets for most of these shows because it doesn't. It's like where is it going? I mean unless I guess like Obi-Wan maybe Ian McGregor demanded half the budget for his salary or something, but it's just like outside of that they don't make sense to me.
I think they gave Obi-Wan a less budget, bigger or less like a smaller budget than the Acolyte, which I'm like, what? Like, can you imagine, Daniel? Just think a 2 hour Obi-Wan Kenobi movie that took all the shit out that we saw, but then also made all the good stuff infinitely better and actually had a good fight with Darth Vader. Like, I can't.
Yep.
How much money would they have made?
Imagine
Like,
that.
and they would have made $1 billion. They would have made $1 billion in theaters, and then they could have put it on Disney Plus. They could put it on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I think, like I said earlier, we're still feeling the effects of Bob Chapek. I think the Acolyte was being made at the very end of his tenure, like it was in pre-production, those kind of things. I think hopefully we have Andor coming. Skeleton Crew is also kind of a remnant of Bob Chapek, but I kind of trust John Watts to do at least a decent job with like kids in space. It feels like it's not important. It feels like it's gonna be a fun adventure.
If it's not really for us as an audience, like it's marketed for younger, which just honestly takes less pressure. I mean, like takes off the pressure a bit, I think, to like be impactful or important. And but it does look like one of those things that it could be good. It could still be enjoyable to us.
Enjoyable,
you know what I mean?
yes.
And that's something that could be nice.
Yeah, and then of course Ahsoka season 2 is in pre-production, I believe, right now, and so I'm hoping, or maybe expecting, hoping there to be a big jump from season 1 to 2 because Filoni's like he's in control now more, and so I'm hoping he can do even more of what he wants with that, or I have a feeling the pacing is Filoni season 1.
You may be right. Maybe
And
he
so it
can
makes me
adapt.
nervous.
Maybe he can hear some of the criticism and
I hope
and
he
get
hears the
better,
criticism is what
you
I'm
know?
hoping. But I also just hope that
His ideas are great. A lot of his
Yeah,
dialogue
exactly.
is great, and like
it's
the
just
core of what
execution.
he's doing is so cool.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and here's the
just-
thing. That, like we said before, that man, he's been working up the ladder for a long fucking time. And
Yeah.
he's getting better and better and better.
And what I shared that interview that I saw with you and Travis today. I didn't realize how involved George Lucas was in Clone Wars.
Yeah,
Like he was
I didn't either,
writing
actually,
the seasons, like he was helping write seasons for them, like at least through season 2 or 3. And so Dave, like
He got excited.
hand in hand, worked with George on this universe. He was mentor.
I knew that part. I knew that. Like I thought George was kind of giving notes. I didn't know George was like writing.
It feels like they were like in the weeds with. I mean, like yes, we all knew he was his mentor, but I think the fact that they were like co-writing almost a lot of what we consider some of the coolest Star Wars lore. And like, oh wow, the Clone Wars does kind of fix some prequel issues, or like, you know what I mean? Like, and it's cool knowing that George was a part of repairing those things too, or kind of, you know what I mean? I think that's cool.
I get it, yeah.
Anyway,
George came out recently. He was like first interview in a while about these, and he was talking about like he liked Obi-Wan. I think he said Obi-Wan Kenobi was his favorite thing Disney Plus has made so far. Like on like
probably
Star Wars, I'm like
Hayden Christensen, but yeah.
I'm like, George, did they pay you to say that? Like, do you believe that, George? I don't know.
He's also you get to a certain age and you just have a completely different perspective on life. You're that rich, you're that old, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
And he probably just liked it because they use the volume so much, and George gets a boner for any kind of digital film making techniques or something like that.
He really does. That's why he started in the Clone Wars thing, because he's like, this animation thing is really fucking cool. Yeah. And so he got excited about it, I'm sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess today was the last thing we'll say, since it's Star Wars related. It's going to be called. It's not officially announced, but it seems like this is the title. It's Star Wars Episode 10: A New Beginning. So they're doing mainline.
Boo. No, drop the
Mainline Star
episodes,
Wars.
man. Just don't.
Yeah.
Because that
Well, I mean,
I don't know.
to be fair, Force Awakens, those were also episode
I
7,
know.
8, 9, but
I
they
know.
didn't say it in the title. They just said Star Wars: A New Beginning and Star Wars: The Force Awakens. So
But it feels, yeah, it still feels more
they
like
all
it's just
say
the next
episode.
trilogy.
It does. That's my problem with it. It feels like, oh, this is not a one-off standalone thing.
And we were told the Rise of Skywalker was the dramatic conclusion of the Skywalker trilogy. So unless Rey, in the opening scene, is Rey going to the court and changing her name back.
I want some
bullshit.
agency with the Palpatine name. I'm going to make it a sign of a beacon of hope throughout the galaxy.
And not anymore. Actually, I realized that was kind of cringe. So, yeah. Anyway, well, I will say Star Wars Outlaws. We got some new footage of the Ubisoft Star Wars action.
I haven't watched it yet.
It's coming out this fall, in theory, at least.
Yeah, I read that it was 25 hours if you do the golden playthrough.
Yeah,
about 50, 60.
I heard that.
Yeah, 50, 60 if you want to get everything.
Sounds like about a typical Ubisoft Assassin's Creed, kind of numbers.
I didn't watch the gameplay, so tell me, is this up your alley? Is this what you want?
Yes, because it's I'll say this: the environments look super cool. The gunplay looks fine. I mean, it really does. It reminds me of like it feels more like an open world kind of Jedi Survivor with no lightsabers and no Force, I guess, which are, I mean, okay. Part of me is like, I get it. I get we want Star Wars media that just doesn't focus on Star Wars or like Jedi and lightsabers and stuff, but you're giving me an open world, like quest-driven character RPG thing that I've always wanted in Star Wars, and with a Jedi and Force powers, and we've never gotten that. But the first time we're getting it without Jedi and Force powers. Is a little bit of a boring. It's like, but the environments look really cool. The voice acting looks great. Like it looks like it will be a really immersive experience. And getting to just go role play a bounty hunter in Star Wars universe for a while sounds pretty fucking cool.
Do you have to be a female? Is that like your base player?
It's just a pre-made player. It's like Red Dead or anything else where it's just you're that person. And then there's a lot of stealth because you're a bounty hunter, so you can smuggle, you can sneak, you can go kind of quiet mode, and also just go loud mode and shoot everything. And there's there's space travel as well as obviously planets.
Can you build your ship?
Quest. I don't know about that. I didn't mention that. I doubt it. I think it's just going to be more like quest and character, like story driven. And I'll say Ubisoft has never truly impressed me with any of their storytelling. Like some of it's okay, but it's never been great. So we'll see if they can do a good job in Star Wars. From what I can tell, though, there's a lot of attention to detail. There's a lot of love from people that love Star Wars was put into this. Now, does that all come together and make a great game? Who knows? But yes, I'm going to buy it and play it. Absolutely, yeah. Day one, easily.
Yeah, I probably will too. Why not?
I mean, Star Wars.
My life, I'm just like, fuck
game,
it, $60,
and it's just it's cool because it is the kind of game that I think most Star Wars fans have been drooling for. Like we've all wanted Skyrim but Star Wars, or Assassin's Creed but Star Wars, or Red Dead Redemption 2 but Star Wars. Like that's what we want. We want to be a Jedi, but it's like an Arthur Morgan, but he's a Jedi in space, or whatever it is. Like an open world, incredibly immersive, random events, go anywhere you want, make decisions, influence the character, make decisions that impact the world. This big sprawling narratives. That's something we've always wanted, and we've never truly gotten that from. Like it's never really even been tried. You know what I mean? Like no one's done a fully open world Star Wars game like that. Jedi Survivor is probably the closest we've got, and that's not true. It's like hubs, you know what I mean? And it's still a very linear game. It's not like you can go in any direction you want and find quests and go do this, you know what I mean? Like, and so we're finally getting that, and that's really cool. But yeah, I would I always wanted to be a Jedi in those games. You know what I mean? And I always like the ideal version of that game is you start as a Padawan, and like the opening 2 or 3 hours, the tutorial sequence is going through your Jedi training, and then you're like released and you're sent on, and your first mission is on Coruscant, like doing patrol, like, and it's just like working up until you're like a full Jedi, and you have all these planets you can go to, you can tackle all these quests, and they have these underlying things, and it's all some big cool story. I feel like that's what we want. The Witcher, but Star Wars, and we want the Red Dead, but Star Wars, and we just and we're getting it, but we're getting maybe the lesser cool version of that. And it's like
that's probably a Lucasfilm thing. They're like, "Hey, Jedi Survivor's doing the Jedi thing, and we don't want to oversaturate." That's what it is. I mean, Lucasfilm.
And there are some people that are
yes
like, "We want Star Wars, but we don't need Jedi in all our Star." Like, there are some people that, and I'm like,
yeah, those people don't fucking understand Star Wars.
Fine, if you want that, fine, but give me the Jedi with it first. I'm fine with them making this game, but I wish it was the second game they made or the spin-off game they made after they gave us the like be a Jedi simulator in the galaxy game that I think everybody's ever always wanted.
Hey, we just gave praise to Andor, and I don't think there's any Jedi in that at all. Maybe there is.
Fair. No,
I don't
you're right.
remember. And no, it's great, but like it's not mainline. It's not episode 10. If episode 10 came out and there was no lightsabers or force, I would not be a happy camper. You know what I'm saying? You can do Solo, you can do Andor, you can do these things, but don't take people who say like you don't need the force, you don't need anything, people. But Star Wars is you have people in space, you have people doing religion, magic, and then lightsabers. That's what Star Wars at its essence, what makes it cool and what makes it Star Wars.
It's a combination of grungy sci-fi with mystical space magic. That's what that is the killer combination that is Star Wars. So
Yep. All right, Dan, how can listeners write into us?
Listeners, you can write into bit.ly/2for1mail and let us know what you're thinking of Star Wars Acolyte Episode 3. I hope that you're not insane and thinking it was really, really good. So only write in if you agree with us. I'm kidding. We want to know. Maybe we're missing the point here. Maybe we are just, just blind. Maybe we're just blind people that don't see the beautiful golden goose in front of us that is this show. Let us know. bit.ly/2for1mail.
You've taken quite a big turn from last week to this week. And all that's happened for me is my suspicions have been confirmed. My fears have been realized.
I was like, maybe I was just in a really good mood that day for some reason that I'm not remembering. And like, it just gave me this like rose-colored view for like a couple hours.
It's okay.
I don't know.
There's 5 episodes. Maybe do you think maybe the bad guy is the mom? Like the Dathomir
I thought about that.
mom?
Could be. Very
Think
well.
so?
Could be. Yeah.
Maybe it is. All right. My name is Donovan Thompson.
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
And we have spoken.